Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hello, Fearless Freedom family. This is another solo episode. I would like to talk today about punching fear in the face and how we can do so effectively. Okay, so I know you're probably wondering, why do I use the term punch? Because it is a violent term, that is true, but it definitely gets the point across and attracts you to the discussion. Because when you hear that word punch, it is a active word, it is a take action type of word. Granted, punching is usually frowned upon, but in this situation, I would say that punching fear in the face is definitely what we need to do in order to conquer it and emerge victoriously. So, we're going to talk about a couple of things that are going to help us to punch fear in the face. The first thing is our mindset. We really have to have a mindset change. And if you think, let's take a quick audit of what your mindset is like. Just think about how you respond to particular situations that come up in your life. So, how do you respond when you are asked to do something that may be in your wheelhouse, not clearly comfortably so, but it is? And what is your response? Is your mindset one that you are going to do it and learn as you go along and make it happen? Or is your mindset one where you think, oh, I'm not qualified to do that thing, so I'm not going to do it? So, your mindset is extremely important. How do you go from a closed or negative mindset to an open or positive mindset? Well, one of the things that leads to a positive mindset is an assessment of what is your self talk. So, when you look at yourself in the mirror every single day, you really have to adopt one of those. I don't know how many people were around when Saturday Night Live used to have a skit with a gentleman that would have these mantras that he'd say to himself, no matter what was going on, no matter what negative thing was happening around him. He would say, I am good enough, I'm smart enough, and everybody loves me. So that is a real mindset builder, to have a positive set of words, powerful words that you say to yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror on a daily basis. So if you look at yourself in the mirror and you tell yourself that you will be great, that you will succeed, that you are an overcomer, these are powerful words. And if they're said on a daily basis, you will find that your mindset will be one of positive and openness. And so, when we think of we may not necessarily understand the full power of repetitive, positive reinforcement, but it is something that happens over a course of time, and it is something that replaces the negative soundtrack that we sometimes hear. Because you know the soundtrack. You know when you're about to do something or you're in a situation and you're like, girl, you can't do that. No, that is going to be replaced now with, girl, you can do that, because girl, you are here because of a reason, and girl, you got this. So just changing the soundtrack that we hear and changing our mindset, changing the podcast in our mind to one of encouragement, empowerment, and positive thinking. is how we can definitely change our self-talk. So the other thing is, this is something that is a muscle, right? In order for it to get strong, it has to be practiced every single day. Because to be honest, every single day, our minds need to be armed for for future mental warfare and for the insurgence of negative thought. Because let me tell you, negative thought is insipidous, negative thought is relentless, and it will creep its way back in to even the strongest of minds. So you have to constantly be revamping what your soundtrack is saying and what your mind is hearing, your self talk. Okay, so to be mentally strong, we have to work on that quote unquote muscle every day so that its flexion, when needed, is automatic. So something you don't even have to think about. So the other thing that we need to do when we're talking about mindset change, so practicing positive self-talk and doing it on a daily basis to strengthen that muscle. The second thing is to change our perspective. So what do I mean by that? So in a way, when we do something and we may fail at it, our first inclination is to say, oh my, I can't believe that I completely failed at this, I'm horrible, I'm not good enough, all those negative imprints that come through. Instead, we need to embrace our failures. And why should we do this? It sounds crazy. No, well, embracing failure is really changing this perspective of how you look at it. You can look at it as not a failure per se, but you can look at it as a lesson for use in the future. So every single failure that we have is teaching us how we can adapt, how we can be better, and how we can circumvent the similar problem in the future. So every lesson makes us stronger, more equipped to succeed. Failure is not the end, even though we may feel like it when we're in the midst of it, in the throes of it. It is the beginning of our comeback story. And if you want your comeback story to be a great one, then you have to be willing to fail often, to fail fast, to learn from each of those scenarios and those episodes, and to know that these failures are making you stronger every single time. So I'll share with you a time. I have to say that I've had many failures in my life. And I didn't always look at these failures as learning experiences. As time has gone on and more experience as the years go by, I would say that my perspective has changed because now I know that when something happens where I fall on my face, it is not the end game. What is important is when you fall, is that you get back up. Because what is failure exactly? Failure is really when you stop getting up. But if you get up every time, failure is really a learning experience. All right, so I promised that I would share a time when I failed. Let's see which one, because there's so many. Um, okay. Um, I would say my very first failure was in the form of I was very blessed because when I was a teenager, I was able to graduate from high school at the age of 16. So I was able to start college at that time. So I was used to in high school getting phenomenal grades. Like I was always on the honor roll, always on the top 50 in the school, always getting all of the accolades that came along with being a good student, took all of the advanced study classes, and was very engaged in the community of high school and got what I look back and say was my money's worth. I went to public school, but I'm just saying, like, if I were to pay big money for high school, I got my money's worth. And so one time the time came for me to go to college, my expectation was that I would go to college and I would perform in the same exemplary fashion as I did when I was in high school. So I went to a college, big up to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which is my alma mater. And it is a engineering school. It's a technical college. It is very rigorous, and the coursework is by no means a cakewalk. And the funny thing about that was I thought it was completely normal to have a course load as a freshman of, I think I took calculus, biology, chemistry, physics, and computer science. So I had, a full course load with these classes. And I was so excited to be a part of this new experience, to be part of this community, to be able to learn and grow and have new adventures by going to school. And so I studied. If I was ever in a situation where I was going to get a B, I would go to the professor and I would ask for help. I got tutors. I did all the things that one needs to do in order to crush the grade situation, given a rigorous environment and a transition point from high school to college. So I did all the things, and it came time for, it was my first semester, and it came time for finals. And so I was so nervous about my final exams. I thought, man, I need to make sure that I secure these grades, make sure that I don't do anything to mess it up. And the finals, they weren't easy by any means. And so I was shooting for a 4.0, but I was very cognizant that I may not necessarily hit that mark, but that was the goal. Okay, so I went into several of my finals with an A, and basically had to just get a passing grade in order to preserve that. But my chemistry class, I was really at a B and really needed to do well in order to maintain the B and perhaps get close to an A. So that week, the finals were back to back. And so I literally just was so amped during that time that I thought it was a good idea. Now, again, I remember I told you I was mature, but I was still 16. And so I thought it was a great idea to take a stimulant. So, I forget what it was back then. I don't know if it was NoDoz or Stay Awakes or whatever. Anyway, I decided that I was going to take these stimulants so that I would just stay up and I would just be able to go through everything over and over and over and over again so that I could crush these exams. So everything went well. My calculus final, took all of them. The last final was on the last day of finals week, and that was my chemistry final. And that was the one, remember I said that I needed to make sure that I got a decent grade in order to preserve the B and perhaps even get close to getting an A. So I go into the final and I'm doing the final, and then it happens. Literally, I fell asleep on the final. The next thing that I remember was the proctor saying that time was up and that I needed to hand in my paper. I had an anxiety attack. I was so stressed. What was going to happen? Oh my goodness. I just failed a class. This is insane. I've never failed a class. So I get my results back, and lo and behold, I got A's in everything else except for chemistry. I got a big fat C. I was not used to that. I was devastated. It was a complete failure in my eyes. What was going to happen? I had not gotten into medical school yet. This is my first semester, my first year. How would I get into medical school with a C in chemistry? Is that even a thing? So, of course, looking back, I know that there was a lesson to be learned from that experience, from that failure. And the lesson that I learned, and unbelievably, I did learn it. I didn't realize at the time, but I learned to not do that thing where you stay up all week trying to get through all your final exams with minimal amount of sleep, thinking that you can rehash everything in a short span of time when you had been studying all semester. So I learned to pace myself over the semester, and that occurrence never happened again. So when we look at failure, it's really all about our perspective. I wasn't embracing failure at that time in my life because I didn't realize that that was something that I should be doing. But I did learn a lesson from it. So now, as I look back and I'm much more wise, I can say that, for every failure that I currently have, and I do have failures very frequently, I look at them as learning experiences. Just like I learned back so many years ago, because I'm 44 now, so this was many years ago, that, when you fall on your face, doesn't mean it's over. You just got to get up and you got to look at the situation and you say, what can you learn from this? So fear has a lot to do with us not wanting to be vulnerable and fall on our faces. Fear has a lot to do with our self-talk and our mindset. So, in order for us to be conquerors, in order for us to punch fear in the face, we have to change our self-talk, change our mindset, practice to work on that muscle every single day so that its flexion when needed is automatic. And we have to change our perspective and embrace failure as a lesson for the use in the future. So I just want to share that with you guys today. I hope that you got value from this not discussion, but from my my sharing. And I really hope that you will make every effort to work on your mindset and figure out how you can personally change it. How can you change your self-talk, and how can you change your perspective when it comes to failing? And then how can you get to the place where you're embracing failure and you're using it as a lesson for the future. So thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you all very soon. Bye. Thank you for joining us today on this journey. Fear is all around us. It strives to stop us from achieving our greatness. We have the tools to be overcomers. By sharing our stories, supporting each other, and doing self-reflection, we can do this. If you found value in this conversation today, please be sure to subscribe to and share this podcast with your friends. By going to your favorite podcast platform, leaving a review and a 5-star rating, you will help to get the word out about it. And that is much appreciated. Thanks again for spending time with us. I appreciate your time and your attention. It is my hope that you will punch fear in the face today and that you will be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.